Zeus, English pronunciation, /zdeǔs/zdeǔs, ancient Greek Zeus, pronounced {̑zdeǔs}, in classical Attic, modern Greek, {̑di.as} pronounced {ði.as}, is the god of sky and thunder and the ruler of the Olympians of Mount Olympus. The name Zeus is cognate with the first element of Roman Jupiter, and Zeus and Jupiter became closely identified with each other. Zeus is the child of Cronus and Rhea, and the youngest of his siblings. In most traditions he is married to Hera, although, at the oracle of Dodona, his consort is Dione, according to the Iliad. He is the father of Aphrodite by Dione. He is known for his erotic escapades. These resulted in many godly and heroic offspring, including Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Hermes, Persephone, by Demeter, Dionysus, Perseus, Heracles, Helen of Troy, Minos, and the Muses, by Mnemosyne, by Hera. He is usually said to have fathered Ares, Hebe and Hephaestus. As Walter Burkert points out in his book, Greek Religion, even the gods who are not his natural children address him as father, and all the gods rise in his presence. For the Greeks, he was the king of the gods, who oversaw the universe. As Pausanias observed, that Zeus is king in heaven is a saying common to all men. In Hesiod's Theogony, Zeus assigns the various gods their roles. In the Homeric hymns he is referred to as the chieftain of the gods. His symbols are the thunderbolt, eagle, bull, and oak. In addition to his Indo-European inheritance, the classical cloud-gatherer, Greek, common effleurator, also derives certain iconographic traits from the cultures of the ancient Near East, such as the scepter. Zeus is frequently depicted by Greek artists in one of two poses, standing, striding forward, with a thunderbolt leveled in his raised right hand, or seated in majesty. The god's name in the nominative is Zeus. It is inflected as follows: vocative, zi, accusative, dia, genitive, {̑dios}, dative. Diogenes Laertius quotes Phaedo of Ceros as spelling the name. Zeus is the Greek continuation of {̑di.as}, the name of the Proto-Indo-European god of the daytime sky, also called {̑di.as} ph2 sky father. The god is known under this name in the Rig Veda, Vedic Sanskrit {̑di.as}, {̑di.as} Peter, Latin, compare Jupiter, from Jupiter, deriving from the Proto-Indo-European vocative dia ph2 deriving from the root dia, to shine, and in its many derivatives, sky, heaven, god. Zeus is the only deity in the Olympic pantheon whose name has such a transparent Indo-European etymology. The earliest attested forms of the name are the Mycenaean Greek {wi} and {wu}, written in the linear bisyllabic script. Plato, in his Cratylus, gives a folk etymology of Zeus meaning cause of life always to all things, because of puns between alternate titles of Zeus, Zen and Dia, with the Greek words for life, and because of this etymology, along with Plato's entire method of deriving etymologies, is not supported by modern scholarship. Cronus sired several children by Rhea, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, but swallowed them all as soon as they were born, since he had learned from Gaia and Uranus that he was destined to be overthrown by his son as he had previously overthrown Uranus, his own father, an oracle that Rhea heard and wished to avert. When Zeus was about to be born, Rhea sought Gaia to devise a plan to save him, so that Cronus would get his retribution for his acts against Uranus and his own children. Rhea gave birth to Zeus in Crete, handing Cronus a rock wrapped in swaddling clothes, which he promptly swallowed. Infancy. Rhea hid Zeus in a cave on Mount Ida in Crete. According to varying versions of the story, he was then raised by Gaia. He was raised by a goat named Amalthea, while a company of Ketes, soldiers, or smaller gods, danced, shouted and clashed their spears against their shields so that Cronus would not hear the baby's cry. See cornucopia. According to some versions of this story, he was reared by Amalthea in a cave called Dictyanandron, Sicro Cave, in Lassithi Plateau. He was raised by a nymph named Adamantia. Since Cronus ruled over the earth, the heavens and the sea, she hid him by dangling him on a rope from a tree, so he was suspended between earth, sea and sky, and thus, invisible to his father. He was raised by a nymph named Cynosura. In gratitude, Zeus placed her among the stars. He was raised by Melissa, who nursed him with goat's milk and honey. He was raised by a shepherd family under the promise that their sheep would be saved from wolves. King of the gods, colossal seated Mars from Gaza, portrayed in the style of Zeus. Roman period. Mars was the chief divinity of Gaza, Istanbul Archaeology Museum. After reaching manhood, Zeus forced Cronus to disgorge first the stone, which was set down at Pytho under the glens of Parnassus to be assigned to mortal men, the Omphalos, then his siblings in reverse order of swallowing. In some versions, Muses gave Cronus an emetic to force him to disgorge the babies, or Zeus cut Cronus' stomach open. Then Zeus released the brothers of Cronus, the Gigantes, the Hecatonchires and the Cyclopes, from their dungeon in Tartarus, killing their guard camp. As a token of their appreciation, the Cyclopes gave him thunder and the thunderbolt, or lightning, which had previously been hidden by Gaia. Together, Zeus and his brothers and sisters, along with the Gigantes, Hecatonchires and Cyclopes, overthrew Cronus and the other Titans, in the combat called the Titanomachy. The defeated Titans were then cast into a shadowy underworld region known as Tartarus. Atlas, one of the Titans that fought against Zeus, was punished by having to hold up the sky. After the battle with the Titans, Zeus shared the world with his elder brothers, Poseidon and Hades. By drawing lots, Zeus got the sky and air, Poseidon the waters, and Hades the world of the dead. The underworld, the ancient earth, Gaia, could not be claimed. She was left to all three, each according to their capabilities, which explains why Poseidon was the earth shaker, the god of earthquakes, and Hades claimed the humans that died. See also Pentheus. Gaia resented the way Zeus had treated the Titans, because they were her children. Soon after taking the throne as king of the gods, Zeus had to fight some of Gaia's other children, the monsters Typhon and Echidna. He vanquished Typhon and trapped him under Mount Etna, but left Echidna and her children alive. Zeus and Hera. Zeus was brother and consort of Hera. By Hera, Zeus sired Ares, Hebe and Hephaestus, though some accounts say that Hera produced these offspring alone. Some also include Althea and Eris as their daughters. The conquests of Zeus among nymphs and the mythic mortal progenitors of Hellenic dynasties are famous. Olympian mythography even credits him with unions with Leto, Demeter, Dione and Maia. Among mortals were Semele, Io, Europa and Leda, and with the young Ganymede. Although he was mortal, Zeus granted him eternal youth and immortality. Many myths render Hera as jealous of his amorous conquests and a consistent enemy of Zeus' mistresses and their children by him. For a time, a nymph named Echo had the job of distracting Hera from his affairs by talking incessantly, and when Hera discovered the deception, she cursed Echo to repeat the words of others. The major center where all Greeks converged to pay honor to their chief god was Olympia. Their quadrennial festival featured the famous games. There was also an altar to Zeus made not of stone, but of ash, from the accumulated remains of many centuries' worth of animals sacrificed there. Outside of the major interpolis sanctuaries, there were no modes of worshipping Zeus precisely shared across the Greek world. Most of the titles listed below, for instance, could be found at any number of Greek temples from Asia Minor to Sicily. Certain modes of ritual were held in common as well, sacrificing a white animal over a raised altar, for instance, Zeus Volcanos. With one exception, Greeks were unanimous in recognizing the birthplace of Zeus as Crete. Minoan culture contributed many essentials of ancient Greek religion. By 100 channels the old civilization emptied itself into the new, while Durant observed, and Cretan Zeus retained his youthful Minoan features. The local child of the Great Mother, a small and inferior deity who took the roles of son and consort, whose Minoan name the Greeks Hellenized as Volcanos, was in time assumed as an epithet by Zeus, as transpired at many other sites, and he came to be venerated in Crete as Zeus Volcanos, boy Zeus, often simply the Gros. In Crete, Zeus was worshipped at a number of caves at Knossos, Ida and Palekastro. In the Hellenistic period a small sanctuary dedicated to Zeus Volcanos was founded at the Hagia Triad, a site of a long-ruined Minoan palace. Broadly contemporary coins from Phaistos show the form under which he was worshipped. A youth sits among the branches of a tree, with a cockerel on his knees. On other Cretan coins, Velchinos is represented as an eagle and in association with a goddess celebrating a mystic marriage. Inscriptions at Gortyn and Litos record a Velchania festival, showing that Velchanios was still widely venerated in Hellenistic Crete. The stories of Minos and Epaminondas suggest that these caves were once used for incubatory divination by kings and priests. The dramatic setting of Plato's Laws is along the pilgrimage route to one such site, emphasizing archaic Cretan knowledge. On Crete, Zeus was represented in art as a long-haired youth rather than a mature adult, and hymned as Homer's Crows the Great Youth. Ivory statuettes of the divine boy were unearthed near the labyrinth at Knossos by Sir Arthur Evans. With the Keats, a band of ecstatic armed dancers, he presided over the rigorous military athletic training and secret rites of the Cretan Paedo. The myth of the death of Cretan Zeus, localized in numerous mountain sites though only mentioned in a comparatively late source, Callimachus, together with the assertion of Antoninus Liberalis that a fire shone forth annually from the birth cave the infant shared with a mythic swarm of bees, suggests that Velchinos had been an annual vegetative spirit. The Hellenistic writer Euhemerus apparently proposed a theory that Zeus had actually been a great king of Crete and that posthumously his glory had slowly turned him into a deity. The works of Euhemerus himself have not survived, but Christian patristic writers took up the suggestion. Zeus like ʻzjuːs. The epithet Zeus like ʻzjuːs, wolf Zeus, is assumed by Zeus only in connection with the archaic festival of the Lycaean on the slopes of Mount Lycaean, Wolf Mountain. The tallest peak in rustic Arcadia, Zeus had only a formal connection with the rituals and myths of this primitive rite of passage with an ancient threat of cannibalism and the possibility of a werewolf transformation for the ephebes who were the participants. Near the ancient ash heap where the sacrifices took place was a forbidden precinct in which, allegedly, no shadows were ever cast. According to Plato, a particular clan would gather on the mountain to make a sacrifice every 9 years to Zeus like ʻzjuːs, and a single morsel of human entrails would be intermingled with the animals. Whoever ate the human flesh was said to turn into a wolf, and could only regain human form if he did not eat again of human flesh until the next 9-year cycle had ended. There were games associated with the Lycaea, removed in the 4th century. To the first urbanization of Arcadia, Megalopolis, there the major temple was dedicated to Zeus like ʻzjuːs. Additional cults of Zeus. Although etymology indicates that Zeus was originally a sky god, many Greek cities honored a local Zeus who lived underground. Athenians and Sicilians honored Zeus Melitios, kindly or honeyed, while other cities had Zeus Chthonios, earthy, Zeus Catachthonios, under the earth, and Zeus Plausios, wealth-bringing. These deities might be represented as snakes or in human form in visual art, or, for emphasis, as both together in one image. They also received offerings of black animal victims sacrificed into sunken pits, as did chthonic deities like Persephone and Demeter, and also the heroes at their tombs. Olympian gods, by contrast, usually received white victims sacrificed upon raised altars. In some cases, cities were not entirely sure whether the daimon to whom they sacrificed was a hero or an underground Zeus. Thus the shrine at Labadia in Boeotia might belong to the hero Trophonius or to Zeus Trophonius. The nurturing, depending on whether you believe Pausanias or Strabo. The hero Amphiaraus was honored as Zeus Amphiaraus at Opus outside of Thebes, and the Spartans even had a shrine to Zeus Agamemnon. Non-Pan-Hellenic cults. In addition to the Pan-Hellenic titles and conceptions listed above, local cults maintained their own idiosyncratic ideas about the king of gods and men. With the epithet Zeus Ethnus, he was worshipped on Mount Etna, where there was a statue of him, and a local festival called the Etnia in his honor. Other examples are listed below. As Zeus Enus or Zeus Enesius, he was worshipped in the island of Cephalonia, where he had a temple on Mount Enos. Oracles of Zeus. Although most oracle sites were usually dedicated to Apollo, the heroes, or various goddesses like Themis, a few oracular sites were dedicated to Zeus. The oracle at Dodona. The cult of Zeus at Dodona in Epirus, where there is evidence of religious activity from the 2nd millennium BC onward, centered on a sacred oak. When the Odyssey was composed, circa 750 BC, divination was done by barefoot priests called ʻzdeǔ, who lay on the ground and observed the rustling of the leaves and branches. By the time Herodotus wrote about Dodona, female priestesses called ʼði.as, doves, had replaced the male priests. Zeus' consort at Dodona was not Hera, but the goddess Dione, whose name is a feminine form of Zeus. Her status as a titaness suggests to some that she may have been a more powerful pre-Hellenic deity, and perhaps the original occupant of the oracle. The oracle at ZEWS, the oracle of Ammon at the Siwa oasis in the western desert of Egypt, did not lie within the bounds of the Greek world before Alexander's day, but it already loomed large in the Greek mind during the Archaic era. Herodotus mentions consultations with Zeus Ammon in his account of the Persian War. Zeus Ammon was especially favored at Sparta, where a temple to him existed by the time of the Peloponnesian War. After Alexander made a trek into the desert to consult the oracle at Siwa, the figure arose in the Hellenistic imagination of a Libyan Sibyl. Zeus and foreign gods. Zeus was identified with the Roman god Jupiter and associated in the syncretic classical imagination, see Interpretatio Graeca, with various other deities, such as the Egyptian Ammon and the Etruscan Tinia. He, along with Dionysus, absorbed the role of the chief regent god Sabazios in the syncretic deity known in Rome as Sabazius. The Seleucid ruler Antiochus IV Epiphanes erected a statue of Zeus Olympios in the Judean temple in Jerusalem. Hellenizing Jews referred to this statue as Baal Shaman, in English, Lord of Heaven. Zeus in philosophy. In Neoplatonism, Zeus' relation to the gods familiar from mythology is taught as the demiurge or divine mind. Specifically within Plotinus' work the ʻði.as and the Platonic theology of Proclus. Zeus in the Bible. Zeus is mentioned in the Bible 2 times. First is in Acts 14-8:13, when the people living in Lystra saw Apostle Paul heal a lame man. They considered Paul and his partner Barnabas to be gods, identifying Paul with Hermes and Barnabas with Zeus, even trying to offer sacrifices with the crowd to them. 2 ancient inscriptions discovered in 1909 from Close of Lystra testify to the worship of these 2 gods in that city. One of the inscriptions refers to the priests of Zeus, and the other mentions Hermes Most Great and Zeus the sun god. Another occurrence is in Acts 28:11. The name of the ship in which the prisoner Paul set sail from the island of Malta bore the figurehead sons of Zeus aka Castor and Pollux. Apocryphal Book of 2 Maccabees 6:1, 2 talks of King Antiochus IV, Epiphanes, who in his attempt to stamp out the Jewish religion, directed that the temple at Jerusalem be profaned and rededicated to Zeus, Jupiter Olympius. In modern culture, depictions of Zeus as a bull, the form he took when raping Europa, are found on the Greek €2 coin and on the United Kingdom identity card for visa holders. Mary Beard, professor of classics at Cambridge University, has criticized this for its apparent celebration of rape.